It's your birthday. Go, Don.
A couple days
It's
ago,
your birthday.
but we'll celebrate all week.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to be in Johnny's and be at church. Woo!
Yep.
All right, I'm still waiting for my thingy to realize we're good. Oh, it says it's still waiting for the stream. Oh, we're coming in, and we're live in. I'll count you down, Nam Shakti, or Sunday. Who's doing it?
No, Shakti, you just go ahead.
I'll count you down. I still don't see it on Facebook yet.
I'm watching Facebook as well.
Yeah, it's taking a minute, isn't it?
Do you want me to start as soon as I see it that's live?
As soon as you see it's live, yeah. But I'll know before you know because it's
Everybody's streaming right now.
Yeah, it's a little spinning thing, and it's kind of trying to push it to Facebook, but everybody's doing that too, right? Waiting for live video. Come on, guys. Come on. That can't be loud. Come on, guys. Okay, then. Isn't that interesting? It's just not wanting to go. So let me see if I could tweak it. Don't make me go call tech support. He's still in bed. Yeah, that thing.
So if it doesn't work in the next minute, Shar, we should start and we'll record it. And then if we need to put that up on Facebook later, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, good idea. Just give me a sec to grab the stream key, copying it and pasting it into this thing here. Okay, that was a different key, so maybe that's what was wrong. Yep, connecting live video in. Yeah, we're in.
So welcome to Center for Spiritual Living Leesburg. I am Shakti, and I am one of your spiritual practitioners. Our theme for this year is 2020 Vision, Spiritual Vision. And this month, April, our focus is new beginnings. And right now, we open our sacred space together, setting our intentions for our service and bringing our awareness of our unity and oneness, which is represented by this one lit candle. Let us close our eyes now as we bless this service and our time together. Together, let us recognize the divine presence that moves through all things. I know that this presence of love expresses as each of us in unique and beautiful ways. I know that we are blessed by this time together, and that we are each renewed in our remembrance of love, peace, wholeness, and connection. I give thanks for everyone in attendance and for everyone who made our service possible today. May the energy of love that is generated here bless us abundantly, and so it is. And while we are in this space of blessing, it is our time for us to share a prayer, request, or celebration. If you are in our Zoom room, you can put a request in the chat, or you can speak it out loud by unmuting yourself. And if you're watching us Facebook Live, you can also type your request in the comments, or you can speak it out loud if you don't want anyone to know, and we'll put that prayer with us. So please share your prayers or celebrations.
Hi, this is Karen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to say a prayer of gratitude for my friend Hannah, her husband, and her 90-year-old mother. They're on day 9 of surviving the virus, and they are getting better every day. So it's been a real blessing to see them. You know, you don't want somebody to go through that process, but it's a blessing to see them work through it and share their journey and know that there's positive outcomes. Thank you.
Yes. want prayers for my aunt, who also is positive, and her granddaughter that lives with her, and she's an infant, and she got a fever this morning. So just prayers for them too. Okay, so yes.
I'm monitoring the chat room, and Robert put a post asking for prayers for everyone, and I think that that's something that you would do anyway, but I wanted to share his request.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Tamara, for doing that. Okay, so I invite you to close your eyes this moment right now. I invite you to just take a deep breath in and acknowledge the breath of life that we have and how wonderful it is to know this breath. That this breath is God. God is in the breath. That God is in the stars, in the sky, in the grass, all around us. That God is that one presence, that one power, that one essence, that unity that resides in each part of our being, that beautifulness, that sacredness that we are, that is what the divine is. And it is in every single part of our being. So that is in every single part of my being that I am radiating that essence of wholeness, of health, of pure love, of divine energy. And as I know this for myself, I know this for every individual that's in this room with us in the secret space, and every prayer that was requested, that was spoken out loud, and that was not spoken out loud. Knowing that wholeness, that health, that perfection, that divine order, that love, that beauty, that essence of the divine energy, that healing is happening right now. As we know that the divine is embodying in every single presence of every individual. And wholeness and healing is happening right now where those individuals are at. As I know this to be the only truth for us. It is the only truth. And in this state of gratitude, I am so grateful. I am grateful, grateful, grateful. I breathe in gratefulness and I breathe out gratefulness. I'm so grateful. And in this state of gratitude, I let my word go into the law. That knowing that even before I spoke, it was done. I let God, I let the divine, and I let it be, and so it is. Amen, amen. And now it's time for our music of today. Thank you.
Oh, there we go.
It's Patty and Brett.
Let the peaceful waters tumble down my soul. Let me live in this moment, watch it all unfold. Let this joyful feeling come from deep inside and lift my spirit closer to the light. Oh, 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 I'm letting go. Oh, oh, I'm letting go. Gonna roll I am lost in the stillness of a silent prayer, just to move into breath with a heartbeat there. Oh, 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 I'm letting go. Oh, oh, I'm letting go. Oh, I'm letting go. Oh, I'm letting go. Let the peaceful waters tumble down my soul. Let me live in this moment, watch it all unfold. Let this joyful feeling come from deep inside and lift my spirit closer to the light. Oh, 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 I'm letting go. Oh, 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 I'm letting go. Oh, oh, I'm letting
So beautiful. Patty and Brent, thank you for beginning that for us today. And that's a perfect song to bring us into this place where we are today. That's the sense of letting go, which I'm going to be talking a little bit about that. We're in a new month. I'm Reverend Sunday Cote, and thank you for being here. We're in our new month, and we start a new theme. And of course, when we talked about this theme back when we were creating it, and our ministers and everybody was creating it, we were thinking about spring. You know, the freshness of spring. That this is the beginning of a holy week for the Christian tradition. It's the Passover. The Jewish tradition of Passover is starting in a couple of days, and so this idea of bright beginnings, of that, wow, we're moving into the spring, we've made it through the winter, and now we're in this moment of spring. And so in looking at that theme and looking at where we are at this moment, we're not quite there. We're not quite at the bright beginning. So I want to talk a little bit about before the beginning and where we kind of are with our path, as we know, moving through this challenging experience that we're all facing together. And so I just want to kind of acknowledge what's going on, and from this individual place of what we might all be experiencing as we continue to go through this experience together. That kind of, I went to the grocery store yesterday, and it was exhausting. It was exhausting. Just this overwhelming sense of change, of seeing the changes, seeing people in masks, the empty shelves, the plexiglass, if you've been in any store, where the separation and that sense, and it just can bring up so much around loss of control and grief about changes, and it can bring anger up and frustration. And so in addition to just how our lives are kind of transformed in this new way, we're also still dealing with a really big tragedy, and seeing the death toll and knowing people that are experiencing it ourselves. And so this is just a really challenging time. And as you know, it's important for us to just acknowledge that. Just kind of breathe in and acknowledge it. Some of those Facebook posts where they say, if you're not getting things done, if you're not realizing you all this time on your hands, it's like, no, you're okay, you're human. It's okay for us to not expect to do these great things in this time, and that maybe it's just about nurturing and compassion and love, and doing those things that serve us, and taking good care of ourselves and resting when we need to. Because not only are we dealing with this individually, but this is something, it's a historic moment, really, in our history, at least in the lifetime of this, our generations, that it's a collective challenge. It's a collective trauma. I know that I felt some of that when we went through 9/11, right? We felt this kind of collective trauma with the United States, and there were other countries that were grieving with us and supporting us and feeling it, but it was still fairly a trauma for the United States, and it was not affecting our everyday life in the way this is. Of course, if you traveled, you had to take your shoes off, and obviously people that were affected by deaths or economically, there were definitely challenges. But this is a global situation that every person on the globe is affected by this in some way or another. And so the thing that comes up around that is grief, and being able to put our finger on this idea of grief, the grief of the changed situations, the grief of loss, just being in this moment of feeling that grief we can name that. And one of the things that we might not be aware of is something that David Kessler, who's a grief expert, calls anticipatory grief. So not only are we grieving the loss of the way things were, a lot of people are grieving the loss of celebrations, graduations, weddings, conventions, things that were fun, springtime celebrations. So we're grieving the loss of that which was going to happen, but we're also have this kind of anticipatory grief of what might happen. Where are we going, and what's going to happen in the future? And David Kessler talks about this anticipatory grief this way. He says, anticipatory grief is that feeling we got about what the future holds when we're uncertain. Usually it centers on death. We feel it when someone gets a dire diagnosis, or when we have the normal thoughts that we'll lose a parent someday. Anticipatory grief is also more broadly imagined futures. There's a storm coming, there's something bad out there. With a virus, this kind of grief is so confusing for people. Our primitive mind knows something bad is happening, but you can't see it. This breaks our sense of safety. We're feeling that loss of safety. He says, I don't think we've collectively lost our sense of general safety like this. Individually or smaller groups, people have felt this, but all together, this is new. We are grieving on a micro and a macro level. And that is a really profound reality in our life right now. And so to be able to talk about that and acknowledge it and be with that is a powerful thing. And so David Kessler goes on and talks about naming this. I'm just going to read this, what he continues to say. I talked about it last week about emotions need motion. He's the one that said that. So he said, there is something powerful about naming this as grief. It helps us feel what's inside of us. So many have told me in the past week, I'm telling my coworkers I'm having a hard time, or I cried last night. When you name it, you feel it, and it moves through you. Emotions need motion. It's important we acknowledge what we go through. One unfortunate byproduct of the self-help movement is for the first generation to have feelings about our feelings. Isn't that true? And if you're spiritual, then we have guilt about our feelings, or we think we shouldn't have those feelings. So we tell ourselves, like, I feel sad, but I shouldn't feel that. Other people have it worse. We should stop at the first feeling. This is really powerful. So instead of saying, I shouldn't feel this because, I'm so lucky, I'm so blessed, something's going on, we stop at that first feeling. I feel sad. Let me go for 5 minutes to feel sad. Your work is to feel your sadness and fear and anger, whether or not someone else is feeling something. Fighting it doesn't help because your body is producing the feeling. If we allow the feelings to happen, they're happening in an orderly way. It empowers us. Then we're not victims. How powerful is that? That sometimes, especially in our philosophy, we think that if we feel the feelings, we're being victims. And that is not the truth, because we know that there's a truth within us that is more powerful than those feelings. And what we're actually doing when we ignore them is giving them more power. Instead of just acknowledging them, this is just something that I'm feeling, that I'm going through. You know, I cried after I left the grocery store the other day, just because, you know, it's a big deal. And, you know, and I'm going out of the house and I'm coming back and I'm, you know, I'm having to deal with food and kids and, you know, and all of these things. And it was like this release. And I allowed myself, I just cried all the way home. I just let it out, felt it. And then when I got home, I was okay. I was okay. When I was in my ministry, my early years in my ministry, I think I thought I had to, you know, show this perfect person. And I had a situation when one of my members of my community at that time, Celebration Center, we were at a conference and something was stressful, something was going on, and I was talking to her and I began to cry. And she looked at me like, you know, she's, you cry, you know? And she said, you know, I was thinking I wanted to become a minister, but I didn't think I was perfect enough. I didn't think I had it together. But seeing you cry shows me that I don't have to be perfect, that I can be human. And it was a great lesson for me, because I realized that I needed to be able to share that more, that it was okay for me to share. So if you're looking for that perfect minister that's got it all together, you know, keep moving. Because what I feel is I'm here to move through this with us, and to you know, model the teachings in a way that is helpful. And part of that is being able to feel those feelings and to be able to acknowledge them and to be human. And my member who I had that moment with did go on and become a minister, and she is now one of my colleagues. So if you're thinking about it, go for it. So we have to remember to be compassionate with ourselves and know that these extraordinary times that we're in, collectively and individually, both is something that we can move through together in this time. And that what we're in, you know, my talk title is Before the Beginning. So what we're in right now is this transitionary period. You know, a lot of us think of when change happens, that there's an end and then a beginning. But there's actually this middle part. There's an end, there's this transformational experience, and then there's beginning. The Buddhists have a name for this. They call it bardo. It's the place between lives. So once you finish with one life, there's kind of like this cosmic waiting room. and then you move into a new life. So we're kind of all in this cosmic waiting room, right? Waiting for something new to happen. But at the same time, just like a caterpillar in a cocoon, there's lots going on. There's a lot of stuff transforming and melting away and becoming something new. And so this image of us all being in this collective cocoon, you know, waiting for that metamorphosis is a comforting thought for me. So so let's talk about this place, this transformational bardo, this collective bardo, and what can happen in that time to be able to move through to something new. What can happen when the end happens and we haven't quite got to that new yet is can bring up questions, right? It can test our faith. It can bring questions about ourselves. And I'm going to cover just a couple of those that kind of come up that I've heard people talking about. One of them is I'm out of control. I'm not in control. Another one is death. Death is a reality. Sometimes we don't like to remember that. And then the question that oftentimes get asked is, where's God in all this? Where's God? How can God allow something like this to happen? So I want to talk about each of those from a place of finding the spiritual truth around it. And I love Robert Browning in his poem. He says, truth is within ourselves. It takes no rise from outward things. Whatever you may believe, there is an inmost center in us all, where truth abides in fullness and around. This is what we can do with our teaching, is we can go back within and find those ultimate truths that can move us through this. Ernest Holmes says, what we assume, expect, or believe creates and colors our experience. By expanding our deepest beliefs about what is possible, we can change our life experience. And what's so powerful is that when we change this life experience and then we share it with others, we create this collective, powerful energy together. Richard Rohr has this wonderful phrase. He calls it the common wonderful. The common wonderful. And that's when we gather together with those who can lift us up and remind us of this truth, that share these common beliefs. And that's why spiritual community is so, so important, to be able to lift ourselves up to a common wonderful. So we're going to talk a little bit about our common wonderfuls in our teachings and how that can support us during this time. And to know that as we grow as a collective, as that common wonderful becomes more and more, and we practice with more people, then that's how we change the collective. You know, Dr. Ernest Holman, in his last talk that he gave, his famous sermon by the sea, he talked about finding this group of people that can know this truth. He said, find 1,000 people who know these truths, who know we're connected, who know the oneness, and the world will no longer be vanished. Because there's this collective, wonderful that we're experiencing together. And that is what the creative impulse is. And so let's talk about these. The first one is, I'm out of control. I'm not in control. We so hate change, right? When you say, well, we want change, but just don't make anything change. Who was it that someone said, I've left claw marks on everything I've ever let go of. It's like we don't like to change, and yet that's the evolutionary process. We can't grow unless we change. We're born as a baby and we never change. We don't get to experience a new expression, a new life. And sometimes, again, in our teaching, we tend to go straight to that sense of positive, and we don't realize that there's a process through it. Matthew Fox in Creation Spirituality talks about the 4 levels of transformation. The first one is via negativa. There has to be some event that moves us into change. And then after that, there's via transformativa, which is transformational period. That's the cocoon, the changing. And then that moves into via creativa. The creativity starts. The new ideas begin. The new opportunities, the expansion, the newness, whatever we've evolved into has a new expression and new skills. It's kind of like in a video game when you evolve to a new level and all of a sudden you get all these new skills. That's what that via creativa is all about. And then it moves into via positiva, which is the positive expression, this joyful place. But then the cycle starts over. And so we get afraid of that cycle and we think we're going to get stuck in one. And so we have to remember that evolution happens in a crisis. It happens when something is no longer serving, something is no longer working. And we are on this evolutionary edge of a world that hasn't been working too well. And so it's this time of being able to be in that creative space to realize that this time of via negativa moves into a transformational experience. Yesterday was the 52nd anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King's assassination. And if we look at that time period, 1968 was a pretty troublesome time. It was a challenging time. There was a lot of discord, a lot of challenge, and yet this is when this via negativa turned into this creative experience, this transformation, the civil rights movement, which of course we're still working through, but there was a major shift and change at that time. And so when we look at these evolutionary times in our life and be able to see past, see to something greater, and to realize that these challenging times bring forth the evolution. In Carter Phipps' book, Evolutionaries, Unlocking the Spiritual and Cultural Potential of Science, Great Idea, he talks about this stress is what causes evolution. And he shares a story by evolutionary biologist Elizabeth Sahtouris, and she talks about how things evolved. There was a single-celled creature, bacteria, that turned into a multi-creatured cell, which is called eukaryotic, I'm gonna get that right, eukaryotic cells, that then turns into multi-celled creatures, which are humans, and where we're evolving to is new multi-creatured cells, a global cooperative. That is where we're moving into and we know that. Look at how connected we are, how this has affected everyone because we are one, because we're a collective already. She shares about through photosynthesis how bacteria created too much oxygen, which was toxic to the bacteria. So it evolved into oxygen. It evolved into something that survived, using oxygen, which is us. And so these transformative periods where we think that life is ending is actually an evolutionary process of transformation to something greater and something bigger. Dr. Holmes talks about this evolution as an evolution of consciousness. He called it climbing up the ladder of unfoldment. So according to him, we're kind of standing at this peak of this evolutionary climb. And he says, now, if individuals are to continue to progress, we must take things into our own hands and choose to continue our climb. From now on, we ascend because we ourselves have chosen to do so. In order to do this, we must clearly realize that there is no separation between human common and God. We are really at an amazing part of our evolutionary process because we know we are evolving. We know that we have choice in how we evolve. We know that we have a part to play in our evolution, not only through our habits, how we take care of our earth, but through our consciousness, through our thoughts, through our connections to each other. And this is a powerful thing. So even though we may feel out of control in our everyday life at the moment, the powerful, calm, and wonderful is that change is an evolutionary process to the ultimate reality of expression of who we are in greater and greater levels. And that's a powerful, calm, and wonderful for us to remember as we move through this challenging time. The other thought that people have comes up is this reality of death. We all know we're going to die. We all know it, but don't we just deny it? We don't want to look at it. We don't want to think about it. We just want to say, no, that's not going to happen. But it's inevitable. All of us are going to lose these physical bodies at some point. And so it's really powerful for us to acknowledge that, because when we don't acknowledge it, we may lose a lot of opportunity to live our life to the fullest. When I was in ministerial school, one of my teachers who taught all kinds of different things, but he shared a Jewish prayer. And I don't remember the prayer exactly, but it was something like, when you get up in the morning, you say, today would be a good day to die. And when I very first heard that, I was like, I'm not affirming that. and as I looked at that, I realized that that's such a powerful thing, because if every day is a good day to die, that means we live fully. That means that everybody that we need to tell we love, that we've told, that we have expressed our creativity or our expression to the highest, that we've loved, we've been kind, that we have, all these things. If you think about the day you want to die, isn't it a day where you feel content and happy and loved, and that everybody knows that whatever it is that you wanted to tell them? And so if we treat every day that way, then we change our experience, we change our expression. And we realize that it's a good day to die to those things that no longer serve us, to those habits, those beliefs, those thoughts that absolutely do not serve us. And so what we know, what our calm and wonderful, is that we believe that even though the body dies, there is this eternal part of us that lives on, that expresses, that moves forward. Ernest Holmes talked about an upward spiral of expression, and it's that evolutionary process. He said, life has set the stamp of individuality on you. You are different from any other person who lived. You are an individualized center in the consciousness of God. You are an individualized activity in the action of God. You are you, and you are eternal. Therefore, do not wait for immortality. Begin to live today as though you were an immortal being, and all thoughts of death, all fear of change will slip from you. So you are an eternal being. You are an eternal being. That's our common wonderful, to know that we have an expression of life that moves through us in a way that continues on in some expression, no matter what. So we just take that in for a moment, because that's a big one, right? And then the last one that I want to talk about is this idea, this question of where is God in all this? How can a loving God let this happen? Crises like these can test our faith, our belief in God. And what I've said so many times in my classes and in services with you all is that that's the biggest aspect of our teachings. The greatest gift of our teaching is to reevaluate and come to a deeper, expanded idea of God. That how we think of God, spirit, universal energy, love force, whatever it is that we call it, is how we react to life, is what creates the expression of how we deal with things. And so if our idea of God is something separate than us, that is out there playing games with us, bargaining with us, just playing with us, being absent, then we have a great opportunity to redefine what we mean by that. And that in our teaching, we talk about a loving universal energy that moves through all things, that is a part of us. It's the very first thing. It's the only thing we ever do in our teaching. And this is what my go-to in times of stress is my first 2 steps of what we call spiritual mind treatment, which is our spiritual technology or affirmative prayer. And that first step is recognizing the divine in all things, recognizing the allness of life, the universal essence, that presence that moves through all things, to feel it and see it around us, to touch base with it. And that's one great thing about this time of year, even though we're going through all this, spring is still happening. Spring is still happening. It's a beautiful time to acknowledge and to feel that divinity and nature and expression of this beautiful life. And the second step is knowing that since God is all there and everywhere, it's within us. It's a part of me. I am this divine expression. I am one with that life. And if that's all we do through this process is recognize the divine truth around us and that we're a part of it, that's going to move us through a lot of this challenge. So our ultimate common and wonderful is this awareness of oneness, this recognition that God is universal source, that is love expressing through us, that we are in a choice in how we express this out into our world. We're not being punished by some ultimate God. I don't even believe we're here to learn lessons. We are here to express the magnificent expression of God and evolve that. And yes, we may learn some lessons, but that's because we get to learn about our actions, what we've done in the past, and maybe change those. But it's not a universal test. It's us experiencing and expressing the oneness of the divine. And so we can move through this time with these common wonderfuls that change, even though physical change, the effect change is inevitable, there's a timeless, changeless reality within us. That even though death is inevitable, this physical body again in effect, that there is this timeless, changeless energy within us that will live on, that will express in different and new ways. And that, yes, if we have an experience of God as something outside of us and separate than us, it's a pretty scary time. And yet what I know to be true is this divine never leaves us, is never abandoning us, is moving through us, it's accessible to us, as us, through us, and through seeing the divine in all things, and seeing that expression of the divine. I know we often find it. We can all look for that good and see how beautiful it is in this expression. So my question for you this week is, what is it that you can create as a touchstone in your life? I've named some common wonderfuls in our philosophy, but what are your common wonderfuls? What is it that you want to lift up that is true for yourself, your family, your community, and our world? The next few weeks are probably going to be some of the most challenging that we have experienced in our lifetime. And so, individually and collectively. And I know that if we could hold in this time of bardo, this sense of compassion and love, and remembering that this transformation is happening, that this breaking down is creating something new. We can be a force for good in that, because it is through our actions and our beliefs and our energy that defines what evolution is going to look like. How is that going to look for us? I want to share, in closing, I want to share this writing from Nori Huddle's book, Butterfly. It talks about the metamorphosis of a caterpillar. She says, the caterpillar's in the cocoon. The caterpillar's new cells are called imaginal cells. They resonate at a different frequency. They are totally different from the caterpillar cells that his immune system thinks that they're enemies and gobbles them up, chomp, gulp. But these new imaginal cells continue to appear, more and more of them. Pretty soon the caterpillar's immune system cannot destroy them fast enough. More and more of the imaginal cells survive, and an amazing thing happens. The little tiny lonely imaginal cells start to clump together into friendly little groups. They all resonate together at the same frequency, passing information from one to the other. Then after a while, another amazing thing happens. The clumps of imaginal cells start to cluster together. A long string of clumping and clustering imaginal cells, all resonating at the same frequency, all passing information from one to another there inside the chrysalis. A wave of good news travels through the system, lurches and heaves, but not yet a butterfly. Then at some point, the entire long string of imaginal cells suddenly realizes all together that it is something different from the caterpillar, something new, something wonderful. And in that realization is the shout of the birth of the butterfly. And since the butterfly now knows that it is butterfly, the little tiny imaginal cells no longer have to do all those individual cell things have to do. Now they are part of a multi-celled organism, a family who can work, who can share the work. Each new butterfly cell can take on different jobs. There's something for everyone to do, and everyone is important. And each cell begins to do just that very thing it is most drawn to do, and every other cell encourages it to do just that. What a great way to organize a butterfly. And we are those imaginal cells. We can take this time to realize that it is transformation of our thought, of our expression, of how we organize, knowing that in this transformational time, something new is being created, something new will be born. Let's take that into our prayer time. Dr. Holmes said that, now suppose there was a center, at the center of the being of each one of us, it's a clear channel to the infinite, which is forever pouring forth through us in a unique way, because it never does two things alike, nor does it ever repeat itself. Each one of us is that unique, clear channel to the divine. Each one of us can stop in this very moment, take a breath in, and recognize the divine. Recognize that all there is this expression of life. And though the effects sometimes in the outer world can confuse us, can make us lose our way, there's always a path back to the divine truth of our being, to find the common wonderful. So in this moment, I am so grateful for the opportunity to step into this divine truth. To know that it's okay for each of us to experience the feelings that we're having, to cry and express and to feel the fear and feel all of that. And when we can acknowledge those as just human emotions that need to move through us, then we love ourselves in a new and powerful way. And when we do that, we can then stand in the truth of our being, the wholeness of who we are. and be a gift to ourselves and a gift to the world. So this moment, I know that each of us is that divine expression of God. And in this moment, let us just connect with that sense of knowingness, connect with each other, to know that we are these imaginal cells of love, of peace, of wholeness, of health. And as we continue to work together, the world transforms. And so in this moment, as we are these imaginal cells of love and light in this cocoon that our world is in this moment, let us just feel into that divine truth. And within your own self, within your own heart, feel that light coming forward. And let us just allow that light to pour out of ourselves to, energetically to each person in our service today, who are watching online within our Zoom room, who might be watching this later. Just feel into that connection of this aspect of us that are connected, that are part of this evolutionary process, these imaginal cells going forth into our world with love. With love. Let us expand beyond our walls, our homes, from this virtual community out into our neighborhoods. How beautiful it is. One gift is to be able to see the neighbors out walking and connecting in ways that we might not have connected before, and just know that our neighborhoods are resonating with this divine white light. And expand beyond our homes and our neighborhoods to our state, and let's move to our capital, to where our laws are being made, where the people in power are called to lift up into the divine truth of who they are, to express in a way of wholeness and health and safety for all. Let us expand to our country, to all those places that are hot spots at the moment, that need our extra love and light. Let us surround all the healthcare workers, the first responders, the people in our grocery stores who are delivering our packages, the restaurants, the places, the essential places that make up our lives. We'll just bless and love and shine that light. And finally, let's just move around the world, that globe, that beautiful pale blue dot that is our home, is where we're experiencing and where we're expressing at this very moment, knowing that it is lifted up in all of its inhabitants, all of life. As we emerge from this cocoon in a transformational way, in a creative way, to an experience of more love, more health, more wholeness for all. This is the truth that I claim for all of us as we move back into our bodies, into our spaces, breathing down into your own bodies, and know that this word that is spoken has moved into that law that is always available to us. And I just claim it with gratitude and love. And together we say, and so it is. And so we let it be. Now Patty and Brent are going to sing for us again.
Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening to me right here, right now. I can feel it in my body, I can feel it in my soul, I can feel it in my heart, and it won't let go. Something wonderful, something wonderful is happening.
Beautiful. You guys can send them some love in the chat, or if you're on Facebook Live, bring those hearts up, and we'll give Patty and Brent some love today. So thank you so much. So we're going to move into our time of sharing of our gifts, and we have our affirmation. I shared this affirmation last week, and I love it so much. I think that it's a great thing for us to continue to affirm that we have this power within us to be a force for good. And so you can just repeat it after me. If you have a donation for us, just remember that our expenses go on. We're choosing to continue to support Arc of Loudon with our contribution this month. We still have our musicians and lots of things that we're choosing to continue to have. And so please keep us in mind for your donations. And you can donate online. You can text that phone number right there, 703-940-0620. All you do is put the amount in and hit enter, and then it'll come back. And if you've not done that before, it'll just ask you for your credit card information, and then you're done. You can also go to our site and click on the pay there. We so appreciate your support at this time. Spiritual community is so important. So let us just say this affirmation out loud, and then Patty and Brent are going to sing for us again. So the presence of spirit within me blesses everyone I meet, tends to heal everything I touch, brings gladness into the life of everyone I contact. Therefore, I'm a blessing to myself, to humankind, and to the day in which I live. This is the day in which we live. We can be a healing presence in it. And so it is. So Patty and Brent are going to sing for us again.
It's a new day, it's a new day, it's a new day, it's a new day right now. It's a new day, it's a new day, it's a new day, a brand new day right now. You got your body, your health, your eyes and your ears. You got your mind, your thoughts, your dreams and your fears. You got your soul, a beautiful soul, oh yeah. Every moment is mighty, you got to choose. Shining up the night, you got nothing to lose. It's a new day, it's a new day, it's a new day, it's a new day right now. It's a new day, it's a new day, it's a new day, a brand new day right now. You got your pride, but don't let it get in the way. You got your past, but it ain't who you are today. You got your soul, a beautiful soul, oh yeah. Every moment is mighty, you get to choose. Shine your love tonight, you got nothing to lose. It's a new day, it's a new day, it's a new day, it's a new day right now. It's a new day, it's a new day, it's a new day, a brand new day right now. You got your soul, a beautiful soul, oh yeah. Every moment is mighty, you got to choose. Shine your light tonight, you got nothing to lose. It's a new day, it's a new day, it's a new day, it's a new day right now. It's a new day, it's a new day, it's a new day, a brand new day right now. A brand new day right now.
Hey, thank you. Blessings, yes. All right, thank you, Patty and Brent. So I do have this new class starting tomorrow night. It's called The Power of Your Word. It's through the larger CSL, Centers for Spiritual Living organization. It's an online class. And if you have taken this class before, you can audit it. But if you haven't taken it and you feel like you might want to, even if you haven't taken the prerequisites, can you contact me? Because I believe that this is such a powerful thing for us to be doing right now, to have that time together in a group, learning to, one of the things that this class does is it brings in current day events, and we learn how to create prayers around that, to pray for other people, to really hone the power of our word. So if you're wanting something to do during the next 8 weeks while we're in hibernation, please contact me, or you can go online to csl.org/online classes, and you can click on there and find the class. My class is called The Power of Your Word, or connect with me. We start tomorrow night, so if you're wanting to join us, this is the time to do it. And then next slide.
Sorry.
There's Patty and Brent. The next slide is about our meditation time. There it is. Our practitioners are offering just this beautiful service every week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Charlene is doing one on Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. and Shakti at 9 a.m. And they have a little bit of different focus. So you can go to our website and learn more about that. And you just, again, go to our website and click on the Zoom button if you want to join at 9 a.m. It's like about a half an hour long, really start the day and keep us all grounded and practicing in our spiritual community. So thank you to our practitioners for offering that during this time. And let's see, I think that's all the announcements. Let's go to our pearls. If you're watching online, this is a time where when we're in person, we kind of talk about what we might be taking away with us, what we're going to go forward with in our journey from our service today. So you can participate. You can type in on Facebook what your pearl was, what you might be taking away, and Charlene or Nam Shakti can share that with us, or you can type it into the chat. But I would really love to hear some voices. This is our time for our spiritual community to share. So we're going to open that up, and what I would love to hear from a few of what you might be taking away. And maybe we can take the share off, Charlene, so people can see each other. There you go.
Hi, Sunday. I really, today's service was beautiful. Thank you. The evolution happens in crisis. I'm taking that with me. And also the lessons, we all believe that we're here to learn these lessons, and you clarifying that we are actually not was such a powerful impact for me. So just, I wanted to thank you for that. But overall, I think, this was such a great, you're always so good, but this was really, really, really wonderful. I'm so blessed to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nam Shakti. Thank you for that. And thank you for being such a powerful part of our community as well. Tamara.
Yeah. Wow, Sunday. Thank you. That was so wonderful. I took so many notes. I put a lot of stars different places, and I held up my butterfly, and here's a little sign that I have in my office. Without change, there would be no butterflies. Thank you so much. And also, thank you for pointing out that this is all happening during spring. And what a reminder that there is winter, but spring comes eventually. Life does win. So I'm just going to be hanging on to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tara. Love that. Anyone else? Yes, Larry.
Yes, hi. I was just really reminded that when we're in this process of change, it's kind of like hiking up a hill. And, when is it that you first turn around and look back and realize, oh, look how far we've come. And, just to keep that awareness about, the constant change that we're in. And so this was a good reminder of that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry. You're going to have service outside, I see.
Yes.
On your patio, your porch. Who else? Kristen, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, I wanted to mention, I really resonated with that you cry. And, we all feel feelings sometimes, and it's okay. Phew, I'm a human. And, moving through that, acknowledging those feelings as they come up, it's just we have permission to do that. I think that we go through, as you were saying, that perception that if we're spiritual, we don't feel everything, we don't fear, we don't mourn with each other, and we do all those things, and we still know that we are spiritual beings. And I think that that is just such a powerful message for us all. So thank you for crying.
I do it all for you guys. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you. Karen, you have something to share?
I'm just enjoying and sitting in the energy of the moment. So thank you.
Wonderful. Anyone else before we close up? All right. So Patty and Brent are going to sing Thank You for This Day, a few different, a little bit different than we usually do, but sing along if you choose, if you want to, or just take it in. We're going to leave in a place of gratitude today. So Patty and Brent.
We're just going to sing the first verse a couple times, just so, and if you want to sing along, help yourself. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. This healing day. This healing day. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. This healing day. This healing day. This healing day. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. This healing day. This healing day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day.
All right. Yay. Thank you guys. Thank you, Patty and Brent, for sharing your music with us today. So let's just close our eyes, place our hand over the heart, and just say out loud, I am love.
I am love.
And open your eyes, and if you can see somebody, if you can't, just imagine them in your eyes to say, you are love, you are love. And then bring it all up in the air. It's all love. It's all love. Send some love sprinkles to each other. Thank you for a great service. And if you're on Zoom, you can stick around and we can have a little coffee time, a little sharing time. If you're on Facebook Live and you want to join us, go to our website and just hit the Zoom link there, and you can join us if you want to have a little bit more deeper conversation. So, all right.